Hi, and welcome to the Human Biography Podcast. On today's episode, I've got my good friend B, the inventor of the Alinker. Welcome, B.
Good morning, Sharad.
So I wanted to ask you, I want people to know about this incredible device, this enabler for people to have freedom. That's how I sort of see it. Can you tell me a bit about your background as an inventor? And then we'll go right into some of the studies that have been done around this incredible work that you do. And then finally, we'll talk about the device itself. Yeah, please tell me about your background. Yeah.
My background. Well, when you say the word inventor, my father comes to mind.
Okay.
My father was an inventor.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered as a kid, like, what does it mean to invent something?
Wow.
Because you have to think of something that doesn't exist yet.
That's
How
right.
do you do that? You have to have language for something that doesn't exist yet. That's a bit of a metaphor for my life. Being a gender weirdo, I never had language for who I am.
Yeah.
So the inventing is sort of a common thread throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
And when you invent something, you're kind of looking for something that needs something.
Yeah.
But so identifying a problem, a situation that you think like, why is it like that?
Absolutely.
And so you need to be innately curious.
Yeah. It's being original.
Yes.
It's doing something very original. And
Yes.
when I first met you, I had to research to first say, okay, what is that originality? And then there's one thing for, I've seen people reinvent something that already exists and make it better, make it easier to use, as we've done through time, through technology. But this is something very, very original that has helped people. And it's, talk about the process. Talk about the process.
I think it goes systemically back to that we live in a society where we've been conditioned to look at problems,
Yes.
identify problems and try and fix them.
That's right.
It's very much a fix culture. And I don't think they're problems, actually. They're all symptoms of a system that is not meant for our human well-being.
Sure.
Because to say it bluntly, happy and healthy people are not a good business model.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So we've been conditioned to be unhappy and unhealthy, so we become super consumers of all the things to make us feel happier.
That is right.
Or that. So I look at the world differently. I don't see problems. I recognize them as symptoms of that system. And then I look at what people need.
Yes.
And when my mom made that comment, when she looked at some people using some walk assists and a scooter and a rollator and whatever, she said, over my dead body I'll ever use one of those things. I was like, interesting, because when people are uncomfortable around death, which I know because my father died and the whole family disappeared.
Wow.
And by extension, disability, obviously, and
Yes.
illness, people are very uncomfortable around
Yes.
that. So why do we give people with disabilities technical solutions for a body with a problem?
Yes.
As if we are a body with a problem. And so I was like, what do we need? What would I want to use when I get mobility issues?
Yeah.
I want to have something that I can continue to feel myself.
Yes.
And so I set out, when my mom said that and we went into a conversation about that, I set out to make something so fucking cool that anybody would love to use that.
Yeah.
And then, you can feel yourself again. You can be at eye level, and at the same time, you get all sorts of physical benefits of being active, being in eye level, completing the whole feedback loop to the brain and
It's
activating the
incredible.
brain,
Because when I see the device itself, the Alinker, you think that this is actually a mobility. It looks like a bike. Like it looks like a cool bike, and even the colors are, actually very, very cool. And people who have mobility issues, whether it's a wheelchair or walker, they're somewhat constrained based on what their path is. Right, literally the path that's in front of them. Tell me about the device and sort of how it was created and what was thought of when it was being created. Yeah.
I don't think people are constrained. I think the world constrains us by not being designed in an inclusive way.
Yes.
Like if you think that 15% of our population has disabilities that relate to mobility.
Yes.
15%.
Wow.
Why do we design a world that is inaccessible for 15% of our people?
Yeah.
And so we are not disabled.
Yes.
The world disables us
Yes.
by not being designed inclusively
Great.
for a vast majority and a vast diversity of people.
That's right.
you can extrapolate that to any kind of diversity and
You're totally right.
segments that we're talking about in society, people that
That's
are
right.
marginalized because of color or sex or whatever. And so the world disables us because the world puts a label on us, because once you put a label on us, you can medicate it.
Yes.
You know, you
Or
can diagnose it and
or
label
limit
it.
us to say this is what you can do, but you can only go this far. And I think that is a real big
Well, that's
barrier.
disabling, right?
Yes,
Like that's
absolutely.
limiting is disabling
Absolutely.
you. We are not disabled. We're
Yes.
just a body that moves in a certain way.
Exactly.
And the fact that I have legs or have no legs should not make a difference in how we have a conversation.
Yes,
and
I
it
agree.
doesn't.
I agree. You're totally right. You're totally right.
But why does it?
Yes.
Out there, because the world limits us, because it has not been designed for all of us.
Yes. Yes. Tell me about the design that went into this then.
Well, the design that went into it was more of a process of looking at all the current walk assists and looking at them, how they are a technical solution for a body with a problem,
Yeah.
the logistical way to get your body with this problem now
Yes.
from A to B. And when you see people behind walkers, they're hunched over.
Yeah.
So then I'm looking at like, if they're hunched over, they're probably trying to get rid of their weight on their legs. They're sitting and people look down on you, or you're, a quote from wheelchair users is like, you run into a lot of assholes.
Wow, literally.
Or it smells at that level.
Wow.
I never thought about that until somebody, because people are not very hygienic.
Wow.
It smells on that level.
Wow.
And so going through all the things that people would experience with the current mobility aids, not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just like everybody chooses whatever is good for them.
That's
so
right.
I'm not saying like wheelchairs are bad or rollators are bad. I'm not saying that at all. But what I looked at is the human experience of using this in the setting of the world that disables us.
Yes.
And then making something that, the thing was like, put you at eye level. What does it need? Well, you need to walk, but you need to be supported. So there's a seat
Yes.
in your butt.
Great.
At eye level. What does that mean? An overarching frame to hold that seat. If you want to walk, there can't be an obstruction behind you. There's just one wheel, but
right.
for stability, you need two wheels. So there's two wheels in the front.
Wow.
This instantly got into engineering issues, because why do you see tricycles and whatever with one wheel?
In the front.
Because two wheels steering,
That's right.
is like Ackermann's
Okay.
steering mechanism
Sure.
that you have in every car.
Yes.
It's an engineering thing. So people say like, it's very expensive. It's like, and it looks so simple. Why is it so expensive? It's like, well, to make simple looking things generally takes a lot of engineering.
Design is expensive, and
Design is
engineering is, we the most simplistic things that make our life easy, were not easy to create.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And high quality,
Yes.
to make sure it's safe and it's stable. A lot of work went in that.
How many prototypes did you go through?
I made 7, what do you call it? Conceptual prototypes,
Sure.
just to prove
Absolutely.
the motion. And then I went to manufacturer of assistive devices or rehab technology in the Netherlands, who made 7 more pre-production prototypes. So
Wow.
that is all the engineering, and what is the tubing that goes into it, and what are all the, like we have a hinge in the middle of the frame, which is not triangulated, which is like, how do you do a hinge in a frame without cracking the whole thing, without making that dangerous? And so all the engineering was done in the Netherlands, and he introduced me to a partner in Taiwan, which is if you want quality and affordable bikes, that's Taiwan, and where they treat people well as well. So then I got introduced to Taiwan, and we started producing.
And as you produced, who were your first test subjects to see if this worked?
The people that stopped me in the street, because with the prototypes I just went to, the public market in Granville or something. And then, for example, a young woman in a wheelchair, electric wheelchair, who was an exchange student from Taiwan. She was in the Granville of the Granville Island market and helping somebody out. And she saw me and she was like, "Can I try that?" And I was like, "Can she?" Because she was in an electric wheelchair. I was like, "How does that work?"
Yeah.
But who am I to judge? So of course you can try. And so she explained that she had muscular dystrophy, had never walked in her whole adult life.
Wow.
So she said, I probably need some help to get on it,
Yes.
but can you help me? And I was like, sure. So I grabbed somebody's butt and then, like with permission, obviously, the jeans, and then got her on it. And then that always makes me emotional to think back of that moment. This is a woman of 27 years old or something. And she was on the Alinker, and she didn't go like a mile an hour, obviously, but she walked.
Wow.
And she was like, I feel so tall. I feel so tall. And I was like, oh my God. The experience of being at eye level and never have, in your adult life, never have been at eye level was so incredibly impactful.
Yes.
And then she explained that about half the wheelchair users, or more than half the wheelchair users, actually can use their legs, but are directed into a wheelchair because there's nothing between a walker. And if you can't sustain your own weight, you're in a wheelchair. There's nothing in between. I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But which means that more than half the wheelchair users lose a lot more of their mobility that they still possibly have.
That's right.
If they are inactivated in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And so what happens when you sit, you know that thing, like sitting is the new smoking.
Absolutely.
What happens to your brain is if this doesn't move, the brain doesn't get information from there. The brain needs information. The brain needs to be activated in order to complete the feedback loop. So if there's no feedback from lower up, it can't feed top down.
That's right.
So by moving the legs, even if you cannot move them yourself, like we've got people on the Alinker on a treadmill, for example, and bungee cords back to the steering. So the treadmill will move the leg back. And the bungee cord will pull the leg forward again. By moving the legs, even if you can't move them yourself, your brain gets information and it's like, oh, something is happening there. I'm going to try and make a connection.
Oh, wow.
That is completing the feedback loop. And that is something that I don't know because I'm not a medical person, but I've witnessed over the years what that does. And then I talked to Dr. Sankai in Japan, who is the inventor of the exoskeleton. He's a bit of a caricature. He looks like a cartoon figure, really. He's a really interesting guy, total nerd. And he looked at the Alinker and he was like, that is what the exoskeleton does. You put people in a full exoskeleton, which is about $100,000.
Oh, I can only imagine.
The only thing that the exoskeleton does, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you forcefully move somebody? But
I've seen these things, the robotic sort of legs. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's insane, of course.
Yes,
it looks
is.
insane. It's like, why would you put people in $100,000? But what it does is it moves your legs.
Yes.
And then the brain is like, oh, I think something is happening there. I might remember this. And I'm going to create neural pathways. The brain is extremely... It's an amazing machine, obviously, that we have on our heads. So if we don't activate the brain, it doesn't get information. Like if you see a young little elephant, a baby elephant, what it does with its trunk is like...
it doesn't know what to do,
There's 40,000 muscles in the trunk.
Wow.
And by moving it randomly, like babies also have random... By creating random things, the brain is like getting information.
Yes, it is.
And then it's like, oh, I'm going to try and make a connection to try and control that. That is the creation of neural pathways. And what the brain...
That's amazing.
And what neural pathways need is repetition. So when people say like, oh, it's a little bit difficult and whatever, it's like every day a little bit more. Every day the determination to get on it and to make sure that the brain gets repeated information. Repeat. The brain picks up on repetition, puts it in a pattern, makes a neural pathway.
What type of people with different types of disabilities have been using this?
A huge variety.
Give me the range, because I want people to understand that as you're listening to this, you may see it as something that can help someone that you know. And we all know people in different situations that their mobility does get stifled because of injury, because of medical reasons, and this could be the thing that actually changes your life. And so I want to know, what are the types of things that you've seen that this has helped?
The biggest obstacle is that people need to see that they can help themselves.
Yes,
I just provide the tool.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right? So again, the whole problem fixing
Sure.
thing, people are not a problem to be
Yes,
fixed.
yes.
But we've been conditioned like, oh, I'm disabled
Yes,
now,
yes.
and I'm the victim of this system, and I'm just at the receiving end, and this is what it is. If there is a tool that people have the mindset like, I can take my agency back,
Yeah.
now I can get on it.
Yeah.
It's the mindset that makes it work. It's not
Amazing.
necessarily the
I
diseases,
love
because
it.
I've seen people that I thought like, perfect,
Yeah.
that would, and they're like, it's a little bit yellow.
Yeah.
And then it won't work because they've got
it's a
like,
mental
I'm the
block. It's a
victim,
mental
I'm the
block.
receiving end, yes. And I've seen people that I thought like, oh my God, is this ever gonna work?
Yeah.
They fucking make it work
Yeah.
because they have the mindset like, I am an active person, I want to
Yes.
feel myself again, and I do understand I need to make the work.
And I do know active people that have mobility issues now that could benefit from this. And so I want you to see it, and we'll show imagery of it. There's been studies that you've been attached to as well. Can we talk about those?
Yeah, in the last year, we've done a study in collaboration with Stanford.
Yeah.
There were about 74 people in that study.
Wow.
20 of them were longer-term Alinker users. I wanted to have a mix.
Great.
What happened in Stanford is how we got in there.
Yeah.
It's a fun story. A professor in Stanford in genomics and whatever, nerd.
Sure.
Fantastic woman, has become a very good friend of
Yeah.
mine over the years. She was at a point with complications at knee surgeries and whatever that she would have to start using a wheelchair. And she was like, yeah, not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like active person,
Yes.
like I don't want to be
Absolutely.
seated, and I'm going to do anything I can find. So then she found the Alinker.
Yeah.
With legs that don't move and she can't walk, she now does 10 miles a day.
Wow.
And is the fastest professor on campus. Wow. It absolutely changed her life. And so what happened,
Wow.
it always goes through the Alinker. It's not the medical system. It's like, oh my God, we're going to recommend this to our clients. It's always the Alinker users that the medical professional sees like, I know that you can't walk, but you do 10 miles a day. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh, this thing. Like, and then they see, oh, this is happening.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
And you have to use it. You have to try and you have to practice and you have
Yes.
to go through it.
You have to put in work. That's for
Absolutely.
sure.
And then people want to see their potential and change.
But look at athletes.
Yeah.
Athletes don't become sports people because they look for comfort.
That's right. They're pushing beyond their boundaries.
There's growing pains, there's muscle pain, all that stuff to regain, to grow, to strengthen, etc.
On a worldwide level, tell me where this has gone. Where has all the Alinkers been? Yeah, where are they going?
There's about 6,000 Alinkers out there now,
Wow.
6,500 or something. I don't know. I don't really keep track, but something like that.
Yeah.
And they're in Australia, in New Zealand. Some of them are in South America. We don't have distributors there,
Wow.
but people have actually in South Africa. People have traveled, for example, to the UK, shipped one to the UK, picked it up in the UK and flew back with it to South Africa. And then somebody in South Africa was like, I want to be the distributor of this thing.
Wow.
And it's not like hundreds of them, but in Chile, in Argentina, in Brazil, like.
And how quickly can someone get one if they were to order one?
We've got distributors in most countries in Europe
Right.
that ships in 1-2 weeks.
Yeah.
In Australia, we've got a new distributor now.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. So that ships
And in North America?
North America and Canada 1 to 2 weeks.
Amazing.
Everything is in stock.
Amazing.
And since the pandemic, the supply chains and
Of course.
keeping inventory versus sales balanced is a huge challenge.
How can the public help you? How can this audience help you?
By sharing it.
Yeah, great.
Sharing it.
That's what
People
we're here
need
to
to
do.
know about this.
Yeah.
People need to know that this thing is not the next medical device for a body with a problem, but you can really take your health back.
Yeah.
We've seen absolutely amazing results by being in contact with people. I know so many Alinker users because I think as the CEO of the company, it is my responsibility and my joy to get to know people and what it does and understand how they changed their lives, because I don't change their lives. We live in a hero culture.
Yes.
And people's like, oh, you're my hero. And it's like, actually, I'm not.
Yeah.
You're your hero. You got on that thing. So many people don't get on it. and they don't see the effects.
People have to understand that they are the activators of their potential.
Yes.
And I think that, recently there was the BMO run or the Sun Run or whatever it was in Vancouver here. And I'm wondering how many people didn't run because of something that was going on with their mobility. Could you imagine on the next Sun Run or the BMO, there's like 10 Alinkers at the front and they will let those. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yes, absolutely.
I want all my audience to know that they can connect with us, and I'll share the links for this work. I would tell you as well, if you live in the Vancouver, Western Canada region, connect with BE. But also, BE is also an incredible speaker. If you want BE to present the work, the findings, the interesting things that you've done, I think that is a greater good for mankind. So thank you for being on the Human Biography Podcast.
Thank you so much.